I'm Kiera Morgan. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Coffee with Kiera, sponsored by The Human Being in Newport and Lincoln City. And today I am back here with Sheila Stiley, Director of Northwest Coastal Housing. Sheila, you have been a little bit of a busy lady. But first, let's talk a little bit about what you do with Northwest Coastal Housing and how you help those who need a place to live.
Well, Northwest Coastal Housing has been around for 30 plus years, and I've been the executive director of Northwest Coastal Housing since 2015. Yes, 2015. And we provide affordable housing for individuals, but we sort of stepped out of affordable housing into sheltering back in 2021 after COVID and wildfires.
Mm-hmm.
So we have now transitional housing and low barrier sheltering. We have tiny homes we built. We have new projects we're breaking ground on. We've done quite a bit over the last several years.
And what I love about your organization is that you take a look at where is the need and how do we fill it, right?
That's correct. Where housing is, right? But name a niche anyway, and the need is there. And all of our housing programs come with services, so it's not just a standard build it and walk away. It's the build it and stay. And that's what we specialize in because we're here. This is where we live and this is our home. So that's what we do. We did branch out into Tillamook County as well, and we were able to save a project in Tillamook County too that was going to be lost to all of these seniors that had called that home for decades. And we were able to step in and save that project. 92-year-old couple there had been there for 25 years and they were going to have nothing and nowhere to go. I mean, and that was just, I know. So we were able to step in and they're still there. God bless their hearts. And what a sweet, blessed couple they are. But it's more families like that we've been able to help. And it's not just seniors anymore. It is open up to others, but they are longtime tenured individuals. So we are, however, not only building affordable housing for individuals, and we sort of fall into that area that we recognize that there are 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms that are a commodity that's sort of lost in the area and that are a high need. We have our cohort with the Housing Authority that's building, 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that for us, 1 and 2 bedrooms are a high need. So we just did our groundbreaking for our Lotto Meadows on Friday. And that one, we want to really honor the need over there and honor the community as well. But we're putting in 22 1-bedrooms and 8 2-bedrooms. So we're really trying to meet that need for the individual person, working individuals, seniors, whatever it is for folks that really can't afford what's out there, but also there's just nothing there.
Right. Well, when studios are going for over $1,000.
Well, yeah, $1,400 up.
Yes.
Yeah, for studios, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, and so we're hoping to help meet that need. It's important,
and it's based on the. I think we always use acronyms.
60% of the area median
income.
Median income. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. I know. And that is something that the state comes up with. We don't have an option in how that's generated. That is something that the state comes up with, and then we have to abide by those rents and those income generated amounts.
So it's not based on what you make. Per se, your rent isn't based on what you make. It's a rent that is a set rent, but it's usually a lower rent than your typical housing right?
And basically,
Ish.
ish. So it's a lot of people confuse it with subsidized housing, meaning a project-based voucher program.
Mm-hmm.
So a project-based voucher is run like you're saying. So your income will adjust up and down based on whether or not you have a voucher that's already in the building and that stays with the building.
Mm-hmm.
That's not this. It is a set rent. And if you come in with a housing voucher, that's fine. That's called a Section 8 voucher, which are a little frozen right now, but they're coming back. We'll talk about that later.
Whole nother story.
But we do accept those. But the rent to the ownership remains the same, whether it comes from the Section 8 voucher on their end and then what the tenant brings. But for us, it remains the same.
And that's important, I think, for people to know the differences with that. And you also serve veterans. You have veteran
Mm-hmm.
housing.
Mm-hmm.
You have housing for other special needs,
Mm-hmm.
mental health, seniors, as you mentioned. Can you talk a little bit about some of the projects that you have?
Yeah, we actually focus on some specialty type properties that is a need out there that is recognized within the community. So we can go back to 2002 when we opened up our Uquina Breeze property. It's a dual diagnosed facility for individuals with severe and persistent mental illness. And we have had that property going for all these years.
And is that in Newport?
That's in Newport. It's
Okay.
9 units. And we have been working with behavioral health on that all these years. We also have, so again, a specialized facility, not something that is generally available and out there. We did open up the very first veteran apartment complex with the very first permanent supportive housing units. There's only 3 of those for veterans, also in Toledo. And there are 11 of those. And that's split. There's 80% of the area median income. So we have 3 units for that. We have all of the rest are 60% of the area median income, but 3 of them, and this is kind of hard to follow, but 3 of them, you only have to have an income of 30% of the area median income. And then we have a built-in voucher program that we can get paid the rent, the remainder of the rent for that. And then we have to have high level response for services for permanent supportive housing units. So it's a lot of work for those,
And then you also have some houses in Lincoln City, or some apartments and housing in Lincoln City.
We do have our battleship property, is what we've called it all these years.
I'm like, I don't remember that name.
Yeah, it's the Ridge Apartments. Yes. It's 80 units. It's our largest apartment complex in Lincoln City. And we also just opened up the very first tiny home community up there in Lincoln City as well. And that consists of 6 long-term and 6 transitional housing units. So that was an amazing partnership, a pilot program. The state was, I didn't know that we were being watched from the state. I'm like, oh, didn't know this was a big thing.
It's Big Brother. They're always watching you.
I'm just building stuff, man. But these tiny homes are not what you think of as tiny homes. Yes, they are under 400 square feet. They're 398, but they are actually HUD-rated manufactured home units that have been moved in. So they pass the long-term energy efficiency inspection rating. They go through much quicker. And so we started developing the site in July, and we had our certificate of occupancy in February. So
I am just astounded at how quickly that came together.
It was quick. It was super quick. But there were 5 different entities involved in that. The build itself went really fast, but getting there took several years. I mean, this inception came in before Northwest Coastal Housing was involved in it, but it still took a while. And I'm going to say, we argue about how many years, I think, with other people, but Tom Kemper in particular, we argue about how long that really was. But I think it was 4 years, 3.5, 4 years in the making. We were able to get that developed. It was the Oregon Housing Community Services representing the state. Lincoln County was involved. The city of Lincoln City was involved. The Coast Vineyard Church was involved, and a community-based organization, i.e. Northwest Coastal Housing, a nonprofit. 5 different entities involved to make something like this happen for people that really need to have place. And it's done by referral. It's preference units for wildfire displaced, which is really important in Lincoln City. We are also finalizing on the last stages of a house for a family that have been waiting way too long to get into this home and garden estates property also in Lincoln City. And they will be probably moving in this month. So we're very excited about that.
And I'm glad you mentioned the wildfire survivors, because that was 6 years ago.
Yep.
And sometimes people kind of get in their heads of, oh, well, that was 6 years ago. Certainly there's not still people that need housing, but that's not true, right?
It is not true. I'm amazed at how many we have already moved in. 3, I think we have 2 moved in. I think we have 2 more that are coming up on the wait list. So out of 12 of those units, we already have 2 already moved in and 2 more on the wait list. So that was surprising. And a couple of them already came from our shelter as well. There are still a lot of them that have had to go through the red tape, all of the processes with federal issues. It is gut-wrenchingly difficult and hopelessly, and hearing the stories has just broken my heart of how long these folks have had to wait to have stabilization. And the fractured families that have come out of this has been really a travesty as well. So it has been a real struggle for folks still coming out of these impacted wildfire locations. And it's not just us, it's everywhere around the state. So, people get tired. Oh, the wildfire. We're tired of hearing. Well, you know what?
You wouldn't be if you were affected.
It is really sad. I mean, it's finally moving forward. Things are finally coming to fruition. Our project is one of those that are an example. Habitat for Humanity, what they're working on bringing people is an example. The Housing Authority of Lincoln County, what they've built is an example. I even think Lincoln 25 had something like that up in Lincoln City too through IHI. So there are different elements of organizations that are rising to the challenge and saying, yeah, we can put this as a preference in our sites and we want to be part of it. It's not just the wildfire, though. Our project for the tiny homes is meant to be there for 20 years. It's a 20-year commitment. And in that commitment, there could be another disaster. Could very well be. And so even though we're talking about the wildfire displaced, we opened it up to other disasters, flood, whatever it could be. So we want to make sure that we're responding again to the need of our area. Because what I did not like, if I could say Dr. Seuss, I did not like, was when we had families displaced by the wildfires and we had vacant units. And I asked if I could put them in the units. And I was told no, I could not put them in our vacant units because if we did, that we would be violating the compliance of our property. Therefore, the answer is no. And I will say that response, I don't like being told no, number one, especially when like that. Well, not when it's not like that.
If you want to get something done from Sheila, just tell her no, you can't. That's simple.
Not when it's something important like that. But the state didn't like having to come with that answer either. So obviously they pivoted and they did something about it, which I so appreciate that they realized that is not something that can ever be done again. And I appreciate that they did something about it. But at the time, that was rough. Hence, we were able to move forward, taking us into our project turnkey applications and applying and receiving the funding for our low barrier shelter, which initially the short term was to be able to house our wildfire displaced individuals. And we did. We ended up housing our more challenging wildfire displaced individuals for about 18 months, 2 years. And then we had a few stragglers come in here and there. And then now, like I said, we still had a couple coming in that are now in place at the tiny home down the street, just down the street, a block down the street from our shelter, which I think is amazing because they'll be able to receive services from our navigation team. There is already that connectivity, but the low barrier shelter was really important because our long-term plan of being able to meet the community need quickly became our now. there wasn't enough of the wildfire displaced because the hotels down the street ended up opening up and everybody went there. So we had more space. So we were able to quickly pivot. And you learn a lot when you have to quickly pivot. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of changes. We have learned to be and remain very fluid throughout these years to identify, understand the need, understand what our need is in relation to the expenditures to run such a program. And now we're at the space where, we do contracts, we do receive grants. It's a lot of work to do that. And that's where the vast amount of our employees are. So we're bringing employment to families. We're bringing employment here to individuals. And at the same time, we're making a huge dent in the individuals that have been homeless for various reasons. We do have, for instance, 3 of our rooms are there for Samaritan Health Services for respite rooms. And so we work with them for individuals that are in the emergency department that are homeless and they cannot go back out on the street.
And where is this? This is at Coastal Phoenix
Rising at our Low Barrier Shelter.
That name.
Oh yeah, Low Barrier. It's thank you. Yeah, Coastal Phoenix Rising. It's a hotel that we bought, and and people have an idea of what a shelter looks like, what a shelter does, what a shelter. And I have been in affordable housing. So my idea is very different from others' ideas. And so I've worked very hard to make sure that we don't operate that way. And if you were to drive by, you would never know in a million years that that's a shelter.
Right.
Right. And we want to be a gem for the city. We don't want to be an eyesore to the city. We want to work with families that are going through crisis that would otherwise take up a lot of other resources. And resources happen and get used while we're there, but not to the degree if we weren't. So what would happen if we weren't there? And it's definitely helped families, like you said, that are in transition. You have families that are coming out of, domestic violence situations and trying to find jobs, trying to take care of children, and trying to save money to get into more stable housing. That's right.
And that's where just having that comfort of a steady place to be and a roof over your head can take that weight off your shoulders to help move forward.
Yeah. And our program, we recognized very quickly that we needed a housing continuum, right? To go from low barrier shelter with a timeline all of a sudden into permanent housing. Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Can we just talk about how many units are available in the county? Well, I'm building them, but that takes a while, right? Remember how long I said it took to build? I mean, they take anywhere from 4 to 6 years from inception to development. It takes a long time to get things built. Thankfully, we're not alone in this. We have other partners that are doing that, but we still have a long way to go. So people need to have time. The getting on Section 8, getting on wait lists, getting on all of these things that are super long. It's not like these just turn over all the time.
You don't just fill out an application and find out a week later, oh yeah, you're approved.
That's not the way it works. No, it can take a long time. And for our program at CPR, it's 90 days initially. You have opportunity to extend that another 30 days at a time, up to 6 months, if you begin to work a program. 90 days, if all you want to do is have a place for 90 days, not programmed, that's fine. But after that, if you want to extend, then you have to really be working a program in order for us to allow you to extend that time. But we realized quickly, as I mentioned, that we needed a transitional space specifically for those that were trying to get in recovery. So we had a lot of folks come our way that were working with certified recovery centers, Reconnections, Phoenix Wellness, the county, all these other locations and sites where they were trying to get into detox, get into residential, and then what?
Right. Then where do they go?
Right. So we were in this space of we need a second stop point. So we applied for the next round of Project Turnkey, and there were 2 in the state that were awarded twice, and we were one of them.
Yay! And that's how Nate's Place was born.
That's how Nate's Place came along. And Nate's Place is 30 33 units, going to be 35 units for individuals and families who are trying to reunify. Same way at Low Barrier Shelter. There's reunification processes that are happening there. There's case management that's happening there. People can go in to their permanent space. And I would say about 30%, a third go into permanency, another third go into the housing continuum, and then the other third probably won't quite make it that far, and then we'll see them again because they're just not quite ready. But 60% is a pretty daggone deal. It is. And so I'm really proud of that and those efforts that have happened. But it's really hard to do. So we need to have partnerships to make this happen. We can't do it on our own.
Well, I was going to ask you about community partners.
We have a ton of community partners, and we need to have more. We need a stronger base. Actually, it would be really helpful. And a lot of these partnerships are funded and grant based too. So when they have budget cuts to their programs, it affects our programs, if that makes sense. So they don't have the staffing to be able to meet our clients, our mutual clients up at the shelter in Lincoln City. That 30-minute drive, people think is just too hard to do. And that can be a struggle. So we've made it virtual.
30? How fast are you driving?
30 miles. I didn't say 30 minutes. Anyway, yeah. I'm not trying to. So yeah, there's 30 some miles up there. And, but no, we try to provide agency huddle meetings weekly and have those partners meet every week. At least every other week, so that we could talk about our mutual clients and try to problem solve with them. And that is all kinds of people.
Really important.
Yeah. So important.
Having those conversations weekly, bi-weekly, it's really important so that everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows what's expected of them and knows what they need to do next.
Well, this work is hard. It is so hard. I mean, for us to want more than the client sometimes is a real challenge. And sometimes that's the way it feels. We advocate and it's really hard. People come in crisis. They're traumatized, they're frustrated, they're sick, you name it. And it takes a long time to get that process. So even though they come in and we're trying to work on a housing program for them, at the end of the day, it's really, what's your barrier to getting there, and how can we help you address these barriers so that you can get as close as possible, knowing that they may not get that far. And that's really hard on my staff. It's hard to see. I mean, imagine the 24/7. We do the 24/7, and that's really hard sometimes. We have a case right now that's really hard and really challenging, and we have to be the ones sometimes to say the hard truth. And that's a real challenge to do. But we can't let go easily. So we pivot and we try to do everything we possibly can until we just have nothing else more that we know to do. And the high costs that it can take on our property itself can be really hard.
And let's talk about that. Your properties are very well managed, and you go through some great property management companies to make sure that they are managed well.
Yeah, Pinehurst Property Management manages a few of our properties. We always have third-party property management companies. On a few of them, it's a requirement for our new developments, but we also manage our own as well. Like, we're here at Nate's Place. We are the manager of Nate's Place. Our offices are here, and we have 4 upstairs. We have 2 units on one side and 2 units on another. That's long-term. And then Reconnections rents from us as well. So they're also our tenant. And then we have Yaquina Breeze, which we manage. And then we also have Coastal Phoenix Rising that we oversee. That one's the more challenging one because of the lack of revenue generating process in it. So you have to really watch. And that one's hard. That one's really hard. We allow pets. And when you have pets, I know, and me too. And I want to keep doing that. It is so important.
But it does require constant management.
It does.
To make sure that that the pets are being taken care of
Mhm.
properly and that it's not causing damage.
And that's not always a success, right? But we do try. And there's a piece that we were hoping to do. There was legislation that had passed, but it's just sat stale. And we were hoping to be able to engage 30 days of going through dog training where they could get a certification so they could learn how to be good pet owners. Trying to find a way to get flea medication and leashes and collars and flea baths and I'm trying to find a way to have a dog run that we could have put into place. There are all kinds of ideas that we have, but all of that takes money. And in the meantime, I've got to figure out how I can remove carpets in my place because my staff are shampooing carpets all the time, because of this. And sometimes it doesn't always work. And so those are the weights that you have to look at and go, what's the hard call that you have to make? I already had to pull cats from being able to be there because of the issue that we had. I mean, it's you can get dog urine out a whole lot easier than you can cat. And that was, hard for us to make that decision, but it's just a hard decision that you have to make when you're a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one piece, but, we're trying to figure out how can we be more responsive, bring more education, bring more responsibility pieces to the table. How can we provide certifications that show that this can be a positive outcome for individuals, for them, for us, and for their future? Because they're only with us for a minute. It's for a brief minute, a moment in time. And we have a lot of things we are trying to work on in just a very brief moment of time. It's a lot of work.
And let's talk about how the community can help.
Oh my, how can the community help? We have 6 bunk beds we want to get.
We do.
I know we do. So I know sometimes the community might go, well, why in the world do you need brand new bunk beds for these people? Here's the thing. The new bunk beds that we're looking at are not ones that would fall apart. They are not used.
They're sturdy.
They're very sturdy. They will last. They will get put together. They will be brand new. Mattresses are expensive anyway. That is part of the price. I don't know if you know that, and you have to buy new.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are very expensive cost replacements, but we need them. We need them for our family rooms. We have certain units, and at some point you and I will be able to go and get into those rooms so you can see what I'm talking about. But in one of these rooms, we have a double bed, and that's all you can really fit is a double bed. And then we're throwing kids, and if we had the bunk beds, it would make it a much more conducive space for the children. It would provide more play space. There's a little closet in there. They could have their little dressers in there. They could have their own little nightstands. I mean, it just creates a reduction in the fighting that could happen with kids. It gives them their own sense of their own space.
Mm-hmm.
It does something for kids. And I don't know if everybody thinks about that. I was a kid in a shelter one time, so I understand what that does to kids. And I can't convey that enough. So we do need
your bed
help.
is your ownership of your own space.
It really
when you're
is.
in a shelter.
Yeah.
And people may not realize that.
Yeah.
And I know that you're getting a good deal through Eager Beaver in Newport.
Yeah.
But it still takes money to have that happen.
It does.
And folks can donate. You don't have to donate the entire amount.
No, $20.
Any amount helps.
Yeah.
It all adds up, and so that we can get these. I mean, you need 9 of them, but you don't need 9 of them
6.
all at. Oh, excuse me,
6.
So I've lowered it
we want
by
9,
3 already.
We want 9. I only need 6. And that.
But you don't have to buy them all at once.
No.
So start a little bit at a time.
In order for me to get the deal, I have to buy them in bulk. So we would have to save the money until we had the bulk funds put together in order for me to get the reduced cost on that. So that's why we're looking at that. But it's 6 of them, and they're a little under $1,000. They're right around $900 a piece. Mm-hmm. And that is for and that isn't just for the bed, it's also for the delivery and the setup and the removal of what else we've got. So it helps us out in a lot of ways. That's a lot of cost in that. So we know it sounds like a lot, but at the end of the day, it's really not. That's one way. Another way, we need dog food. Dog food would be great. Little dog food and big dog food. That is always welcome. Flea medication. We need flea medication for dogs. Believe it or not, we do have cats too because of people's ESA letters that they have. So we do have a couple of cats as well. So it would be nice to have maybe some flea meds for the cats. We don't have as much trouble with that, but certainly with the amount of dogs, flea medication for the dogs would be really welcome.
And I know that that's not something that you think about when it comes to housing, but it is, as you mentioned, it is important. And it does create a situation if you can provide that flea medication on a regular basis, because I have one that gets expensive. Mm-hmm. But replacing carpets is even more expensive.
It's about $4,500 for us to replace carpets per room.
So if you can donate some money, and you can donate money right on the website, right?
Right on our website. It's www.nwcoastalhousing.org. And you can go right onto our donate, and there it is. But okay, we have a Lala Meadows that we're working on right now. Okay, we just actually ground broke this week. But I also want to talk about the other project in our pipeline, which is Gladys Land.
Ooh.
And Gladys Land is a 32-unit apartment complex that is in the pipeline on OHCS. We've put in for federal money, for earmark federal dollars. It'll take more for us to do this, but we are third on the wait list, and we have funding that we're looking to go at for that. And it is for senior and disabled in Newport.
Yay!
I know. Right by the dog park, close to the movie theater. Ocean View Assisted Living is there. It's a beautiful property that we're trying to create. And I know whenever we look to create these properties, by the time we get it, we have to create it as beautiful as possible and then chop it all down and break my heart every time. But it's always a beautiful property by the time it's all said and done. But we go for the gusto,
Right.
But you know what I love about this particular property is the thought process that went into it by Capri Architecture.
They're so amazing.
Oh my God. Yeah. And they know their stuff when it comes to coastal area. I love them. They really put their thinking caps on with this. They even thought about, with our elevator, in order, if people are having a hard time and as they're aging, to color code the floors. So you knew what floor you were on. Yeah, like the sunset, floor, the ocean floor.
I want to be on the ocean floor.
I know.
Little turtles.
Oh my gosh, who'd have thunk? So
Dustin, you're amazing.
Him and Amanda are amazing. They are both quite the dynamic pair, and they bring these concepts to me. And I almost cry every time because I just think, oh my goodness, you take my ideas and then you just blow me out of the water with your thoughts and your processes on them. So we're excited to be able to bring something like that to Newport. That would be a place for our seniors to be able to age in place and our disabled to be able to age in place. So
now, what about South County? We talked a lot about Newport and Toledo and Lincoln City. Do you have some things in South County, or are there plans in place for?
Not yet, but we want to. We even have Sandy Battles is on our board as our secretary, and she has a high dream of being able to bring more housing there to the families. And there are certain criteria that we need to have in place in order to build there. But if South County, if you know a place that you want to have built, give me a call. And I think that's really important. And I think the final thing I want to say about Olala, if I may.
Yeah.
Alala Meadows, there are some folks that are struggling there in Toledo with it being built, and they have really brought their thoughts, they have really brought their concerns to the table, and I am so grateful that they are thinking about impacts. I'm so grateful that they are thinking about all of this. That's what we need to have is our community really thinking things through and asking the really important questions. I am so proud of them doing that. And I'm always open to communication. And it's by those questions that it takes me back, and then I go digging so that I understand what they're saying, and I get to go a little bit deeper, and I go asking uncomfortable questions, and and it's helpful for me when we're looking at places to develop as well, and then I'm ensuring that where we're looking to build is actually safe, and so I appreciate that. The other thing that I want to say too is if it wasn't us, it was going to be someone else. When I got the call from our other counterparts from in different areas of the state, they gave me a call and said, hey, just so you know, we're getting phone calls from the city of Toledo talking about building developments over there, and we want you to know that that's happening. That's your guys' area, so maybe you ought to give them a call. And I went, thanks. So I gave him a call and went, hey, just so you know, this is us, and we're here, right in your backyard.
This is what we do.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, let's have a conversation." So we did, and I'm glad that we did because, again, like I said once before, we live here. This is our home, so we care. And we care about how our partners are being treated. We care, and not other agencies wouldn't, but it's just different when you live in your hometown and you're developing in your hometown and you're creating in your home. You know what I mean? This is our home. And this isn't just my home for a minute. I'm 507 generations here. So I've been in Lincoln County for a minute.
A minute and a half.
Just a minute. So it's important. It's important. And I was grateful that there was that communication and that we could have that authentic conversation, both with our counterparts as well as with the city government. And then continue those authentic conversations where I could run from Lincoln City all the way down to Toledo to make a personal, visit. Hey, let's have a conversation. Because those are needed, and we have the ability to do that, and I appreciate that. But yeah, if it wasn't us, it would have been someone else, and I'm grateful
it was going to be built.
It was going to be built. Yeah,
and we're super grateful that Northwest Coastal Housing has stepped in, because again, you listen to the community and you respond to the community as best that you can, and try to keep the community informed about what's happening and what's going on. And that's going to be, and I think people are going to be happily surprised. It's hard to look at a field with a rundown cow barn right next to a wetlands area and try to imagine housing there. So I think that when it starts, and you said the groundbreaking, we're starting, you're starting work on it.
Yeah.
I think once it comes together, people will hopefully see what an asset it will be to that area.
Change is hard. Change is hard. And it's a 16-acre area. And we're building on 1 acre. And it's at the tippity top. And the wetland isn't there.
Right.
We made sure that we had a wetland delineation done. We even went in on Friday and had our specialists go and test the ground and see how everything was again before we could even start work.
Right. And it was hard to look, like I said, it's hard to look at, because I've driven, my daughter lives near there. And so I'm on that road quite a bit. And even now I drive by and go, there's no way they're going to put it. There's no way that picture on the paper is going to,
It's crazy, huh?
I'm gonna just wait and see and have faith, because I know it'll come through. But yeah, it is. It's hard to look at that and go,
I tell you what, when
you're doing.
When it came to our BlackBerry property too, like I'm looking at BlackBerry going, how is that really going to fit on there? I don't even, you always think about that stuff.
Right.
But it's how you build it, how it's engineered that creates that. Like BlackBerry had to have this amazing engineered wall in order to make sure, and it had to happen during a certain time of the year to make sure that it was stabilized before we could do anything else. So there's a process behind everything, and that's why the testing is important. That's why the product is important, and that's why evaluating placement is important, and that you've got that distance between is important. So it is going to be surprising. One other thing about that, on our website, we have an under construction page, a section, and we will be providing highlights and updates about what's happening in that under construction page. So people can see where we're at, what's happening next, and we'll be starting there.
That's great. And the website is amazing.
Thank you.
So be sure to check that out, because it does provide a lot of answers to folks' questions about all the different properties, what you currently have, what's available, what's under construction, how you can help, and how you can get involved. And again, that's Northwest NW Coastal Housing.org. So check out that incredible website for answers to many questions. Sheila, thank you so much. It's always fun.
It is always fun. I always appreciate you doing this with me, Kiera, and thank you for pushing to go, Sheila. Haven't heard from you in a while.
Well, I'm very passionate about housing, and so it's important for our area, and appreciate everything that you do and the hard work that you put in.
Thank you.
I think your board chair, Rich Music, nailed it when he said that, we're here to hold your coat while you go in slugging and fighting for those who need housing.
And that is a hard thing to do. I appreciate that he said that made me crack up. But I couldn't do it without them either. I mean, they are amazing. They believe in the work. They've got a heart for the mission, and they help fight this way, Sheila. I appreciate them.
Focus. Yes. All right. Sheila, thank you so much. Again, more information about Northwest Coastal Housing can be found at nwcoastalhousing.org. Thank you for joining me. I'm Kiera Morgan, Coffee with Kiera. We are sponsored by the Human Being Newport at 6th Street and Highway 101, and in Lincoln City at the north end on the west side next to TLC Credit Union.